Well, hello everybody and welcome to Kagyu Samye Dzong Edinburgh for the Songs of Milarepa study and meditation course, and we're on to part 3 this time. So before we start the actual course, let's place our minds in the right frame of mind, and we'll start with saying the Vajradhara lineage prayer. O great Vajradhara Tilunaru Mahapamila Dharma Lord Gampopa, knower of the 3 times, omniscient Karmapa, holders of the 4 elder and 8 younger lineages, Drikontaklung and the Salpa, glorious Drukpa, and so forth, masters of the profound path of Mahamudra, to the Jagpo instruction lineage, the peerless protectors of wanderers. Kagyu Lamas, I supplicate you, I uphold your lineage. Grant the blessings of your liberating lives, just as revulsion is taught to be the legs of meditation. This meditator clings not to food and riches, and has severed the ties to worldly life. Grant your blessings for detachment from honor and gain, just as devotion is taught to be the head of meditation. This meditator constantly prays to the Lama, who opens the vault of pith instructions. Grant your blessings for uncontrived devotion to wellful, just as non-distraction is taught to be the body of meditation. This meditator simply remains without altering the fresh essence of whatever thought arises. Grant your blessings for parting from the concept of meditation, just as thought is taught to be in essence Dharmakaya. For this meditator unhindered manifestation dawns, nothing whatsoever dawning as whatever may appear. Grant your blessings to realize inseparable samsara nirvana. May I never in future lives part from authentic lamas, and embracing ever the glory of Dharma. May I perfect the qualities of the levels and paths, and thus swiftly attain the state of Vajradhara. Paden sawe lama rinpoche, dagi chiwo pende di shukla, katin chimpo goneji sungte, kusun tuchi ngudup satu so. Okay, so now in this 3rd part, it's the title of this part is called Meeting Sapparappa. That's a person called Sapparappa. Meeting Sapparappa. So if you cast your mind back, first of all, to parts 1 and 2, they were both from the first cycle of songs, the way that the songs are organized into cycles. And so the first cycle is mainly concerned, or not only, but mainly concerned with the binding under oath of harm-inflicting spirits. That plays a large part in that. Of course, there's other things come into it as well, but that's one of the main definitive things about it. Of course, the songs include Milarepa's songs of realization in response to the requests of humans as well. So there is some interplay between Milarepa and people who have come, his benefactors, etc. But in part 3, we come to the second cycle, and which is the largest sort of group of Milarepa's songs. And these concern the ripening and liberation of the fortunate heart sons and daughters. So these, by heart sons and daughters, well, what it really means is essentially the teachings in song form, of course, that Milarepa gave to, excuse me, the men and women disciples who were, let's say, not just sort of random people that turned up asking for his help or advice and then they disappear, but people who became his disciples on a longer term basis. And they were generally sufficiently spiritually developed and evolved and able to benefit from more profound teachings. They'd already done some practice and they were further along the path, let's say. So these became his heart sons and daughters, and they were able to learn from Milarepa and practice accordingly, following his example. Sometimes they stayed with him for a while, or they went to places that he advised them to go. So there was a much closer relationship than with sort of casual people that came and asked for his help or advice. So that's why they're called his heart sons and daughters. They became his close disciples. I mean, the most famous example of these would be Rinchen and Gampopa, who were very, very close. And Rinchen became a great meditator. He was very much in the yogic tradition. Whereas Gampopa, he was already a monk when he first met Milarepa, and so he was quite learned in the scriptures and things, and he became a very erudite master. And really, he was founder of the Kagyu lineage. It was from him that it developed from there on, because he had both sides. He had the monastic side, but he also had the practiced yogic side. So he was the kind of confluence of both of these sort of traditions, if you like. He embodied them both, and that's why he was able to be this founder of the Kagyu lineage. And they were said to be like the moon and the sun, respectively, Rinchen being the moon and Gampopa being like the sun of the lineage. Their stories are quite long. Their meetings, their history with Milarepa is really quite long, and so I think they would deserve study by themselves. You know, there's a lot to learn from them, and they're amazing, but very profound, and it spread over many years. It took place over many years, and so you see the development of those people, because they were super close to him. They were closer than his heart, you know, the middle of his heart, and so their development is very instructive for us as well, of course. Maybe we'll study them at a later date, but I think it would be a bit too ambitious to delve into them straight away at this point. Of course, you can explore them for yourself as well. You know, if you have the book, you can look into it. But I think it would be nice to study them sometime later. But for now, I think we'll start with a more simple introduction to this cycle. So we have this meeting of Milarepa with Sapparappa, which is fairly short, and I mean, he did study with him, but it's not as prolonged. And I think it would be a good way into this section, this cycle. So let's have a look. So it's called the meeting with Sapparappa. Namo Guru. The Jetsun Milarepa went from the Silk Cave, where he had been practicing previously, to the Luminosity Cave of Ronpu. Ronpu is an area. While staying there, several young people from his own native land of Sapu, that's where he was from, several young people from there came to meet him. And one of them said, "First you destroyed all of your enemies, and now you have become an outstanding Dharma practitioner. How wondrous. I mean, when we're near you, we all feel like practicing. We're so inspired, but when we go home, we just end up doing worldly things. What can we do to help this? What can be done?" I mean, he's putting it very boldly there, isn't he? First you destroy all your enemies, as if that's a good thing, you know, and then you become, I mean, it just shows the contrast very, very in black, literally black and white, isn't it? And then you become this outstanding Dharma practitioner, and how wondrous, and, you know, we feel so inspired, but when we go home, we just fade back into our normal habits. What can be done to help this? So the Jetsun answered him, "If you have resolved towards becoming liberated from the sufferings of samsara," if you have resolve, this is the key word here, is resolve, towards becoming liberated from the sufferings of samsara, such as birth, old age, sickness, and death, then whatever you do will be good. If you don't have that, then the sufferings of future lives will become longer and more intense. Therefore, it's important to make provisions for the next life. So not only do you mess up this life, but you really mess up even more so your future life. So he's giving them some major incentive to do their practice. And so he says it's like this, and then he sung this song of realization. All we worldly beings here are carried by the river of birth, old age, sickness, and death. The next river will be even bigger than this one. Have you made the provisions of a vessel? In the next life, our fear of demons, Rakshasas, and the Lord of Death will become even greater. Have you made the provisions of a guide? The attachment of desire, aggression, and stupidity in the next life will be even stronger. Have you made the provision of an antidote? In the next life, our journey in this great land of the three realms of samsara will be even longer. Have you prepared food for the journey? If you're not prepared, then practice the sublime Dharma. So it's very succinct, but it's extremely full of what they need to do. So basically he's saying all we worldly beings here, and he's including himself in that, are carried by the river of birth, old age, sickness, and death. It's like this river. Life is like a river. It's going to go in that flow. You can't stop it from flowing in that direction. If you're born, you will eventually become old. At some point you will become sick, many, many times perhaps, and eventually you'll die. So using that metaphor of a river, he's saying that the next river, meaning the next lifetime, will be even bigger, more stronger than this one, unless you do something, of course. So have you made the provision of a vessel? So the vessel, you could say that sometimes we call a vessel like the yana, the vehicle, you know, the Dharma, the Buddha Dharma. It's like our boat that carries us along the river, isn't it? So you could say that's one interpretation of that, of the vessel. Have you got a vessel? Have you provided yourself with a vessel? If you haven't, then you can forget about it, you know. So if you've not, this is what you need to do. So the Buddha Dharma also the vessel of practicing the Buddha, not just you have this thing, but you practice it. It's no good if you don't practice it. And so practicing it means following the Buddha's teachings, you know, the paramitas, for example, the generosity, making offerings, prostrations, and that kind of thing, and reading the scriptures, all that the Dharma entails. It's not just, I've got the Dharma, I've got a book, it says it's the Dharma. You know, you have to actually do something about it and use it. And then he goes on, in the next life, whatever fears we have, and here he's saying the fear of demons, rakshasas, these sort of negative spirits, and the Lord of Death will become even greater. Have you made the provision of a guide? So whatever fears we have in this life, and he's talking about demons and rakshasas, but it can apply to any fears at all. So you can translate that into whatever you're afraid of. Whatever our fears are, they will become even greater if you've not made any provisions. So this is he's trying to give them the incentive to do something, basically, and not just to forget about the Dharma when they go back home, but giving them the understanding of why they need to do this. So one of the meanings of a guide is someone to help you along the way. It would be your guru, isn't it? A guru that can help you, but the Dharma in general. And then the attachment of desire, aggression, and stupidity in the next life will be even stronger. Have you made the provision of an antidote? So he's saying it, what happens if you don't do things? If you don't do it, then all of the negative things will get stronger because you'll be going in that direction. It's like, you know, you've got a path. The path you choose will decide what happens in your next life. So if you've not done anything to allay the negativity and to learn from it, then it's just going to increase. It's the same as like neural pathways, you know, whatever you do, you become habituated to. So if that's something negative, it'll get worse. If it's something positive, it will get better. So in modern language, maybe we could call it neural pathways or something like that. But basically it's like, or an imprint, you know, like a mold that's imprinted with whatever you've been doing in this life. You'll have the propensity to carry on doing that in your next life, whether it's something good or something not good. And here he lists the main root causes, which are desire, clinging, yearning, grasping, and then aggression, the opposite, the sort of denial, anger, hatred, that's that part. And then stupidity is also, you could call it ignorance, you know, just not knowing or not wanting to know, or burying your head in the sand, or just can't be bothered. You know, that all comes under the heading of stupidity or ignorance. So have you made the provision of an antidote? So again, it's to do with the practicing of Dharma, but studying it, getting to understand it. You know, why are you doing this? And if you haven't, then it's going to increase in a negative way. And in the next verse he says, in the next life, our journey in this great land of the three realms of samsara will be even longer. Have you prepared food for the journey? If you're not prepared, then practice the sublime Dharma. I mean, he's putting it in a nutshell there. If you've not done any of this, you better get yourself together, you know. Practice in all its spheres of practice. Generosity is extremely important. But all the positive qualities, you know, these are what you're cultivating, your compassion and wisdom, etc. So he's telling it like it is, of course, and he's putting it in a very concise way. And so when Milarepa had sung this, they said, "Oh, this is very helpful for our minds. We will also practice Dharma near the Guru." Milarepa thought, they aren't bad. Therefore, the Guru should let his disciples and benefactors care for him. In other words, he's giving them the opportunity to, they can be benefactors, they might make some offerings to him or something like that. He doesn't need the offerings, he knows their level, and he doesn't particularly he doesn't need disciples for that matter. But he's trying to say, they don't know very much yet, but maybe there's some potential here, and so if they allow them to give me some soup or whatever, or some offerings, and that will help them, because that way they're practicing generosity. And that's really the first parameter that they talk about, because it's the one that people can relate to most easily, and it's very important, of course, because generosity isn't just about giving material goods, it's about giving your time and everything else. So they said, "Oh, please just keep a little money from each of us." And what's he going to do with money? There's no shops around there or anything he's going to do with money. But he accepts it, "Oh, please just keep a little money from each of us. Also, we didn't understand what you just sang. Please explain the meaning further." So they're being very open, actually, which is great. It's a good sign that they're not pretending to have understood. They're being truthful and say, "Well, we didn't really get it, but we got a bit of it, but maybe not the whole thing. So please, can you explain the meaning a bit further?" So this second song of realization is actually about the provisions, about what you need to provide. It's almost like a second song, but it's also like an explanation of the first song. I don't know how you would particularly divide that. So he's going to go into it in more detail. That's his response. So he says, well, following a learned guru, and it's called the 6 necessities. That's just this first part, the things you need. Following a learned guru is called the guide of samsara and nirvana. So you need to follow a learned guru. You be careful who you pick for a guru, and once you've got a good guru, that's who you need to follow. Let him or her be your guide. Giving generously with no sense of regret or loss is making the provisions of food for the journey. Shining the moon of experience upon the darkness is making the provision of a guide. Giving what you've accumulated to the Dharma is making the provision of a vessel. When one has the view that is without bias, that is meditation without distraction. When your conduct is in accord with the Dharma, this Samye is what pleases the Guru. Its result is having no regrets when you die. So he is explaining it in more detail here, isn't he? So he's saying that what they need is to follow a learned guru. That's the guide that they're needing, and that's the guide of samsara and nirvana. That will get you through samsara and up to nirvana, the ceasing of suffering. Giving generously with no sense of regret or loss is making the provision of food for the journey. So normally we think of, food is what we get, isn't it? And that's that is like your food, is what you get. The virtue is what he's talking about here. So when you give, whatever you give, and it says very specifically with no sense of regret or loss, Like not thinking, oh, I'll give you this. Oh, it's a bit much that really. I should maybe take a bit back. Or, oh, golly, what I'm going to do tomorrow now that I've given this. You know, that kind of, oh, maybe you regret a bit that you've given something. Or a sense of loss that maybe you'll be without, that kind of feeling, you know. So it shouldn't be like that. It should be wholehearted giving. No sense of regret, no sense of loss. Wholeheartedly give, honestly, and you know what you sincerely can give. And it's not just talking about the little bit of money or the bit of food. It's whatever is going to be of benefit to whoever you're giving it to. Now that can be your time. This is important because, you know, we consider ourselves to be very time poor, don't we? We're always rushing about and never got any time for anything, and barely have time to say hello to each other, let alone people we don't know, maybe some strangers or somebody, you know, in the street begging or something like that. Even if we give them some money, we might just pop it in the cup and carry on. Often we don't bother to acknowledge them, even the people begging, you know. Or maybe we do, but sometimes we don't. We're in a rush, you know. It's not that we mean to be horrible, but we're just in a rush. I have to say that I do this sometimes, you know, rushing about. So time is really important, to give time and of yourself. You know, give time of yourself, whatever it is that you can give to people, well, not just to people, but to animals, to whatever needs help, basically. You know, Rinpoche's motto for Rockford, helping where help is needed. So you do what you can, as and when the occasion arises. So when you can give with that wholehearted feeling of, you know, you just giving, and then ideally not clinging to an idea of, oh, I'm giving, I'm being so good, and then here's what I'm giving, it's so nice, but I'm giving it anyway, you know? And then the person, oh yes, you must be very pleased with this. None of that giver, giving, given and receiver, you know. Ideally, we work towards not having that idea at all. Just a flow of something happens without grasping the generosity even, the good quality. Because if you do grasp it, it kind of stains it a bit. Okay, you're still giving, but it's not as purely. So that's what we need to work towards, and it's not easy sometimes, you know, because things become a habit. Well, we just give a little bit, and then we've done that, tick that box, you know. It doesn't mean to say you've got to bankrupt yourself either, you know. You give appropriately what you can. You may not have any money, but you can still be a generous person. So giving generously with no sense of regret or loss, that's making the provision of food for the journey. It's going to nourish you. You are the one that benefits from this generosity, not just the recipient. In fact, in this case, Milarepa isn't particularly benefiting at all from the little bit of money that he's got nowhere to spend it, but he's accepting it for their benefit, and to encourage them to give whatever they can give, you know, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be money. Give your attention. You know, if you're a student, give your attention. Take it in. So that's your nourishment for the journey, the journey of your lifetime, and for the next lifetimes, the habit that you're setting up for the next life, and the good habit that you're cultivating. Shining the moon of experience upon darkness is making the provision of a guide. So the guide is not only the guru, but also, well, you could say it's your inner guru, you are your own guru as well. You know, when you shine the moon of experience, by experience, it's like practice, your practice, applying things, not just learning them, but applying them and practicing them. Then that, and so that meditation study and meditation, your practice, and application in life. So then that's what enlightens you, that shines the light into the darkness, the darkness of ignorance starts maybe not all in one fell swoop, but over a period of time, and eventually it will become, you're able to see the light, and through the light. So that's your guide as well, your inner guru. No outer guru can give you that. They can help you to achieve that on the way. And he carries on, giving what you've accumulated to the Dharma is making the provision of a vessel. So when it says giving what you've accumulated to the Dharma, it means, making offerings, also enabling the Dharma. So the Dharma is not something that is bought and sold. That's why we don't charge for Dharma teachings here, because it's not something to be traded. But if you wish to make offerings towards the enablement of the Dharma, to helping a center to function, for example, or to sponsor prayers or things like that, that enable the Dharma to be taught. So you're not paying for the Dharma, but you're enabling it to be spread through practical means. So, and also it's not just that, but it's the fact that you're giving what you've accumulated, whatever that may be. You're giving some of that to enable the Dharma. So when the Dharma is able to be spread, that's the best thing you can give. And if you can't yet, not in a position to maybe teach the Dharma, but you can enable your guide to teach the Dharma, or your teachers to teach the Dharma, or facilitate whatever needs to be facilitated in order for the Dharma to be accessed by more people, more beings. So in whichever way, there's many, many different ways, but again, whatever you're being generous about, it's ultimately you that benefit. Or it might be to put towards building a stupa, or buying, things for the center, like the statue, for example, or tanka painting, or something that's going to help people's visualization and understanding, or texts, anything like that. So, and some people, in the past, they would give everything to the Dharma, and even now, when we look around, we see this nice building and everything. Any money that I've been able to fundraise is all in here. Not just me, of course, but I'm speaking about this place. But when you think of what Lama Yeshe is doing, what Akam Rinpoche did, they didn't keep much for themselves at all, just enough to live on. And that was separate from anything that they were given, so very, very strict about that. And then he says, when one has the view that is without bias, that is meditation without distraction. So very often in life we have bias. I like this person, I don't like that person. Or I like this tradition, but I don't like that tradition. I'll give to them, but I won't give to that one. I'll speak nicely to them, but I'll speak not so nicely to the other one. We don't maybe think that in those terms, but that's what we do, and we do it a lot. So that's not the view. When you behave like that, it shows you do not have the view. When you can be impartial, that's the view. Beyond likes and dislikes, or, oh, they're really nice, I'll be nice to them, or, oh, I don't like the look of that one, maybe I'll just leave that one alone. that kind of behavior is immediately shows that you have no understanding of the view. That is meditation without distraction. Meditation is not just about sitting on your cushion. Perfect meditation has no beginning or end. Your whole life is kind of a meditation. You're never not meditating in a way. Of course, we might be quite a long way from that, but you only get there through meditation, even if it's just, half an hour, 2 hours a day. Eventually, there is no meditation because you're there. I don't think I remember I can remember Shane meditate very much. I mean, when there was something going on in the temple, but I never saw him not in meditation because he was always right there. I never saw him say a bad word to anybody or talk down to anybody. I saw him be a little bit wrathful sometimes when needed, but that was done out of compassion. When of course we have the example of the Buddha and Milarepa and these people. There are people alive now. I remember she's not alive now, but what I mean is in our lifetime, there are people that we can see who as examples, are actually like this, and Rinpoche was definitely one of them. When your conduct is, and he's saying this now, when your conduct is in accord with the Dharma, this samaya, this commitment, this is what pleases the Guru. Its result is having no regrets when you die. So, when we all can bow and scrape in front of the Guru and be all, sometimes a bit over the top in that way, that's not what the Guru requires. They don't need that. Of course, you should show them respect and maybe you make offering or whatever, but the best offering is how you become, how you act. Because how you act is a very good indication of what you've become. Have you been practicing the Dharma? You might have read every Dharma book going, you might have gone to many, many teachings, you might have had lots of training from different gurus. But then when you're mean to somebody, it shows you it's not gone in, or you speak badly of somebody. Of course, we're on the path. We can't expect to be just perfect straight away. But this is, this is what we're working towards. So when you realise that, I've been a bit mean, or maybe a bit brusque, or you've lost your temper with somebody, then you need to be your own guru there. You need to pull yourself up, because your guru's not always around every time, but your inner guru's around every time, as long as they're not sleeping. This is why we need to wake up, because it's hard to see your own faults, isn't it? It's easy to see others, always blame others, they did that, she did that, the other one. No, you need to look at yourself. And when you realise you've done something not so good, then if it's an occasion that needs an apology, then make an apology. Sometimes I've made apologies like a day or two later when it's been really bugging me. What if they took it like, I'm not sure. I'm sure that I could have said or done something better, but I don't know how I'm sure it's been received. So sometimes you're like that, well, they probably didn't. They could have noticed. Best to err on the side of caution and make the apology, even if it's a few days later. Because an apology is a kind of confession. It's a confession that it might not be a big deal, and they might not think it's a big deal. But if it's bugging you, act on that. Because that instinct, that bugging you, even if it's, maybe you're over-egging it a bit, but that's the thing to cultivate. Because even if you make an apology and it wasn't required, there's no wrong in that, Whereas if someone would have appreciated an apology and you didn't make it, there is wrong in that, So, it's okay to do it and not worry about that. Worry that you're not doing it if it's required. And so we have to be on our guard about our own behavior, because we get very used to ourselves. We forget, because, that's just the way I am. You hear people say that all the time, don't you? Oh, it's just the way I am, as if they can't change. Well, if they can't change, there's no point in studying the Dharma if you think you can't change. It's all about changing for the better. And everything's going to change. It just depends which way. So, and when you do that, when you act on that, even though, it's like gritty, it's a bit like having something in your eye, and then you act on it, and you also feel better. Even if you say, oh, there's no need to apologize, it was fine, I know you're busy, mate. So, I speak from experience, So that's, and then when you act in that manner, when your conduct is good, when it's in accord with the Dharma, when there's no disparity, that you're acting in that way, and it's natural, it's not some put-on thing and being holy and doing lots of looking holy. It's not about that. It doesn't matter. It's not about your robes or whether you've got a bald head or you've got a rosary or you look kind of holy. It's not about that. And only Guru worth of salt is going to see right through that. Even not gurus can see through it, So, but you have to be your own guard. And then when your conduct is in accord with the Dharma, the Guru will see that too. He doesn't only see your faults, he or she will also see what you're doing when it is in accord with the Dharma, and that pleases the Guru, because that's his whole reason for being the Guru, is so that people will change for the better. So when you act in a way that is in accord with the Dharma, that is the best offering you can give the Guru, more than any money or anything. And that's what pleases. There's this Samye, it says this, if you have a vow, or you have this commitment with the Guru to follow the Dharma, and then you're honouring it by following it through and showing it, in the way that you are. That's what pleases the Guru. And the result is having no regrets when you die, because you cleaned the slate. You've not got all this stuff, and everything that's going to cause the bad karma, the negative karma from your negative actions. That's all that happens with your negative actions, is what he was talking about previously. It was about all the negative stuff that you're going to end up with in your next lifetime, as well as this lifetime. But it will increase more. So you're wiping all of that negative karma. So you are the one that benefits. Now, there's more to this song. You can see it in the title. It had a sort of second bit of the title, which I think it's almost like another song. I think for when you're studying it, you might want, because up till this point, what we've just been talking about was explaining the first song, wasn't it? So if anything, it's more towards that, even though there was the bit in the middle of them saying, well, we didn't quite get it, can you explain a bit more? But it all relates to the first song. Now, the next bit is friends, benefactors. So that last verse, so that's sort of where the next bit starts, really. So the last verse on the screen starts with friends, benefactors, and disciples. Now he's going to start talking about the opposite, basically, what you don't need. He's been talking about the provisions that you do need. Now we go on to what you don't need. I think if I'd have been editing this, I would have made it slightly different there, because it is the opposite, basically. Of course, it's the other side of the same coin, so you could say it's the other side of the same song. But for the purposes of study, you might want to, I don't know, that's up to you. I'll leave it up to you how you want to do it. Friends, benefactors, and disciples, these three, this yogi has little need for them. You worldly ones do have a need. Obeisance, honorifics, and hypocrisy, these three, this yogi has little need for them. A person with the 8 concerns has a need for that kind of thing. Material things and busyness, these three, this yogi has little need for them. That's something one who wishes for fame would need. Washing, hygiene, and concepts, these three, this yogi has little need for them. These are something that young ones need. These are called the 12 things you don't need. They're not everyone's cup of tea. This boasting of a Repa yogi, you who have gathered here, keep it in mind. If you want to be happy, then practice the genuine Dharma. If you're disillusioned with busyness, keep to solitary places. If you have great perseverance, stay all alone. If you wish for enlightenment, develop endurance in meditation, and you'll certainly be victorious over the 4 enemy Maras. Okay, so let's just look into that a bit more. When it starts off, when I first read it, it says, I think it's maybe something to do with the punctuation, but it says, friends, benefactors, and disciples. It's a bit like friends, Roman countrymen, lend me your ears. And I was thinking, oh, but then it didn't quite make sense. But what he's saying is, he doesn't need these things. So friends, benefactors, and disciples, these two, I don't need them. We don't need them. I don't need friends. I don't need friends. I don't need benefactors. And I don't need disciples. I'm not saying I don't want them I don't like them or they shouldn't come to me or whatever, but I don't need them. They might need me, but I don't need them. I mean, he's not being so rude as to say that, but that's kind of the sort of meaning of it. He doesn't need friends. I mean, this is a big statement, isn't it? We always say, oh, we've got to have friends. You must have friends. Who do we waste most time with, friends or enemies? He knows that. He obviously knows that. So he thinks it, not just does he know it, but he practices it like that. So friends, he doesn't need friends. He doesn't need benefactors, but it's good for them to give. And disciples, he doesn't need disciples, but it's good for them to receive the Dharma. So this yogi has little need for them. You worldly ones, you do have a need. You need your friends, you need benefactors, or to be a benefactor. And, you probably don't have any disciples, but you might feel that you need them. So you worldly ones, you have a need for this kind of thing. Obeisance, honorifics, and hypocrisy. These three, this yogi has little need for them. A person with the 8 concerns has a need. So here he's saying, you don't have to bow down to me. I don't need you to bow down. I don't need you to call me Jetsun or any honorific title. And I certainly don't need you to put on a front of being all holy. I don't need any of that. This yogi has little need for them. He acknowledges that they might need to do some of that, so that he's not saying you shouldn't do that, but not. It's definitely not the hypocrisy. He says a person with the 8 concerns has a need for that kind of thing. The 8 concerns like, reputation and prestige and pride and all of these things, and looking good, and, worldly concerns, basically. Material things, belongings, and busyness, these 3, this yogi has little need for them. That's someone who wishes for fame would need. So, our capitalist society is completely based on this, isn't it? We must have these material goods, and then in a year's time we need another one. And this iPhone's already 2 years old now, and I need to get the latest one. And all of this, and belongings, and accumulating stuff. And how busy we have to be to get them. So the jobs that we have to do to get the money in order to get the material goods. And it's just this cycle of busyness all the time, and ever more complicated. Of course you need food, you need a shelter, you need basic stuff to live. As did Milarepa, very basic. I'm not saying maybe we all have to be quite that basic. One of our residents the other day, we were around the back of the building, there's a little patch of earth, and I wanted to make it a bit better because we wanted to plant some flowers and things there, but there's all these nettles growing up, and they were very young ones, and one of the guys said, "Oh, look, there's all nettles." I said, "Look, they're really young, you can use them for soup." And he looked at me, said, "Milarepa used to eat them." But it did strike me that you probably could, because they were really quite young. I've never actually made them. I should take my own advice and try it myself before I tell other people to do it. Oh, mental telling off. But anyway, these material things in business, our lives become so complicated, and he's saying he doesn't need any of that. That's something one who wishes for fame would need, one who wants to be famous or wants to be well thought of, or recognized in some way, even it could be on an academic level. Academics are often very sort of concerned with this kind of thing. Sometimes you hear them talking, and you think, what? Very concerned with reputation, not just academics, and some of them are maybe very humble. I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit forthright. But I, in a way, I feel sorry, because the thing is, the reason why people get like that is because people give them adulation, and they put them on a pedestal, and so then it becomes a thing that you should be there because the other person is there, and it's a whole system, isn't it? It's like recognition in that way, awards, all of that stuff. I don't think anyone, Milarepa would have had an award for being the best yogi, I can imagine what he would have done with it. And now this is a little controversial. Washing, hygiene, and concepts. These 3, this yogi has little need for them. These are something that you young ones need. Okay, washing and hygiene, we might think, what's he talking about? You might get ill if you're not hygienic or whatever. But, we go completely over the top. And, I think he's talking about the extremes that we go to, and this was then when and in Tibet, where they're not that extreme, to be honest, but he's on retreat all the time. I'm sure if there's a river nearby or a stream nearby, he'll wash his face or something like that. But he wouldn't think, I haven't had a wash today. It would not occur to him, he just wouldn't. When we do retreat, closed retreat, as part of that, there's a period of time when we don't wash. And I thought, how are we going to manage with that? It's fine. It doesn't, you soon get used to it. And I think it's quite good to do from time to time. And your body has a way of cleaning itself if you're not constantly stripping it of its own oils and things. It's amazing, actually. I would recommend doing it for a while. Check it out. And concepts, yes. All the concepts. We we just spout concepts all the time. And we eat them all the time. We accept concepts all the time, without even examining them. Oh, it sounds good, that, it sounds, they must know what they're talking about. Most books that you read is full of concepts. Yeah. So we should guard against that, conceptualizing everything. When you're in a good meditative state, then, the concepts can fall away because you're directly seeing, not kind of thinking about this and thinking about that and, making concepts and things, just being present and seeing how things are, even if it's just the odd glimpse that we get. There's a difference between that and this conceptual way of thinking. And because he was living in this simple way in terms of, accumulating stuff and all that, he didn't have any of that. So he didn't have to have all of that. He's completely living totally simply, mentally and physically, in every way, stripped away of all this unnecessary stuff to concentrate on what's important. Seeing how it really is. Not all the illusory things that we make up and that our society is pretty much built on. That's why he does retreat. That's why he goes to live in a cave on his own. Not because he doesn't like people or he's antisocial or whatever. It's to concentrate on what's important. So he's saying, these 12 things you don't need. Okay, it's not everyone's cup of tea. I do realize that, not everybody's going to agree. This, and he calls it boasting of a Repa. A Repa means someone, a cotton-clad yogi. So Milarepa, Mila, who wears a cotton robe. This boasting of a Repa yogi. You who have gathered here, keep it in mind. If you want to be happy, then practice the genuine Dharma. That's your way to happiness, not getting more stuff, not getting a bigger house and a car and this and that. That's not the way to be happy. I mean, now this is not him saying, but I'm saying here, my understanding anyway, is that it's not that there's anything intrinsically bad about having a car or a house or a nice whatever, but that's not your focus of making you busy and you're neglecting what is important in order to get those things. So it's a question of degree, and we have to start from where we are. But he's cutting it to the chase. If you want to be happy, then practice the genuine Dharma. That is what I'm doing, that's why I'm doing it. And also in order to be able to help others do the same, which is why I'm talking to you, basically. That's what he's saying. This is what I think. This is what I've understood. This is what I'm giving you. It's up to you whether you take it. If you're disillusioned with busyness, you've maybe got to the point that I'm always busy doing this and that, I've never got any time, well, keep to a solitary place, If you have great perseverance, you need to have great perseverance and stay all alone, because you need to persevere. I mean, you need your guru at times, you need to have instruction, but then to put it into practice, you're best on your own. If you wish for enlightenment, develop endurance in meditation. Okay, doing an hour or two's practice every day is good, and you habituate yourself. But if you really want to go for it, especially in one life, as he did, then you better develop endurance. And if you do that, then you'll certainly be victorious over the 4 enemy maras, all the temptations and the greed and the pride and all of this stuff. You will be victorious. If you do that, you will be victorious. So, among his disciples, there was one young man who had faith, diligence, prajna, wisdom and compassion and love. He had faith, diligence, prajna, wisdom, compassion and love. He said, Lama, we are attached to the needs of this life, and because of that, we have not made the necessary provisions for the next life. Now, following after the Guru, I will give up this life and start to make provisions for the next life. This he offered with great earnestness. So out of the group, it doesn't say how many were there, but there was quite a few of them, but one of them had these qualities. He got it. He got what Milarepa was saying. It really went to his heart, not just in his head, but it went to his heart. And he had faith. He had, potential. And he wanted to follow. He was saying he wanted to put his trust in Milarepa and follow him and be his disciple. And he offered it with great earnestness, with sincerity. So the Jetsun said, obtaining the precious human birth with the freedoms and resources and being able to practice the Dharma are very difficult. This is not easy. What we're talking about here is not easy. Even if one does practice the Dharma, to amass all the perfect conducive conditions, such as finding a guru, is also very difficult. Now, while these conditions have come together, so right now, here and now, while these conditions have come together, please practice the sublime Dharma. Then he sang this song of realization. So this was to all of them, but in particular to the young man who had more or less pledged that he wanted to follow him, to be his disciple. Getting this human birth with the freedoms and resources where one is free of the 8 freedomless states is difficult. Having let go of the mundane happiness of this life to make the freedoms and resources meaningful is difficult. Having seen the faults of samsara to accomplish the state of nirvana is difficult. Even if someone should practice genuine Dharma, to gather the perfect conditions is difficult. To have a guru endowed with compassion, who knows the scriptures, logic, and upadeshas is difficult. To have a disciple who is able to practice with untiring faith is difficult. To have a retreat with everything one needs and with nothing that is fearful or harmful is difficult. To have a friend with the same mindset and action that's concordant with the tenant's view and conduct is difficult. To have a body that's workable, free of sickness or pain is difficult. And even if these should come together, to practice one-pointedly is difficult. These 9 difficult things that I have sung here, even though they are difficult, you should engage in their practice. There's a word missing in the text. It should engage in their practice, it should read. Because it's talking about these 9 difficult things. So, let's just briefly go through that again. So getting this human birth with the freedoms and resources, if you've done the 4 foundations, it's all about this. But basically, you've got this human life, you have the good fortune to have met the Dharma. You're not, okay, we all get sick from time to time, but you seem to, you're in reasonably good health. You have all of these resources. You found me, I found you. You know, you have all of this. This is very rare. And to not be under the sway of the 8 freedom-less states. I mean, like, you know, you're able to practice the Dharma. You're not living in a place where that would be outlawed, or you could be imprisoned, or you could just be in prison, or you could have not the wherewithal, or not enough leisure maybe to search out. You know, there's many different ways you could not have freedom to do this. So to have all of this come together is by difficult, it means like rare, precious. It's not easy to come by. Having let go of the mundane happiness of this life, to make the freedoms and resources meaningful is difficult. So even if you've seen through the kind of illusory happiness that isn't really that happy because it's impermanent, and you know, you've seen that it's something of an illusion, then, but even having seen that, to make the freedoms and resources meaningful is difficult. So you have to let go of what's not meaningful, but also to make use of what is meaningful, i.e. the Dharma. That's difficult. It's not enough just to stop doing what's harmful, but to do what's helpful, that requires a lot of effort, you know. I mean, Milarepa made, you know, the kind of, if you know anything about his life, he made incredible effort. He would have probably fallen at the first hurdle, you know, build that over there, no, I mean over there. You know, the training that he got through Marpa, I mean, it's hard. Having seen the faults of samsara, so even if you've seen that samsara is full of faults and you can see how it can lead to your downfall, but to accomplish the state of nirvana, which is the opposite, which is a state of no suffering, that's difficult. Because it's not just enough to see intellectually, oh, I get that kind of intellectually. But if you don't do anything about it, you're still under the sway of it. Even if someone should practice the genuine Dharma, to gather the perfect conditions is difficult. So you've given up all the negative stuff, you're doing the positive stuff, but still you've got to gather the right conditions. All of this has to come together. To have a guru endowed with compassion, who knows the scriptures and logic and upadeshas, the upadeshas are able to give empowerments, is difficult. Not many people have these, all of these in your guru. And likewise, to have a disciple who is able to practice with untiring faith is difficult. Most people, it comes and goes. Very rare to have somebody who's unwavering. Well, I'll do it now, but maybe not tomorrow because I've got to do something else tomorrow. You know, it's always like this, isn't it? I'll come to the tea. No, of course, I just remembered I've got something else to do. You know, I mean, this is not what we call unwavering faith. To have a retreat with everything one needs and with nothing that is fearful or harmful is difficult. So to have the right place, you know, a place of solitude, but then again not with, you know, wild animals or something that could harm you, or, you know, I mean, well, we've seen how Milarepa dealt with that kind of thing, but until you get to that level, you have to be careful about where you're going to be. You need certain things, you know. So these things are not easy to find. To have a friend with the same mindset and action. So this meaning a spiritual friend, not just a friend who's going to say, oh, let's not bother about this, let's go to the movies instead, you know. I mean, that's not the kind of friend he's talking about. He's talking about a spiritual friend with the same aspirations and the same view, basically, that's in agreement with the view and the conduct, the Dharma view, the Dharma conduct. To find others, you know, a like-minded friend is difficult. To have a body that's workable So you can sit for a long period of time. Of course, you have to train, and relatively free of sickness or pain. I mean, you know, Milarepa had pains and aches, and of course he did, but not to the point where he couldn't practice. We give up even if we just get pins and needles, you know, let alone anything else. I mean, oh, I've got pins and needles, what can I do? You're lucky if that's all you've got. Even if these things should come together, if all of these things come together in perfect confluence, to practice one-pointedly is difficult. We get distracted all the time by this and that. Of course, when you have the view, when you really have the view, then what could be distracting for one person won't distract you, and you'll still see it, and you can turn that to the Dharma. And we've learnt that in some of his other songs that we did previously. When he's in this place of retreat, he described it, didn't he? With the goats playing and the thing, you know, the nature around him. But all of that was turned to the Dharma. He would use all of that. Instead of getting distracted by it, he would use whatever he encountered to be the path. He would see it in that way. So it's not like you're blocking everything else out, but you see in a different way. So it becomes your friend, your help, not your distraction. Everything is focused in that prism, if you like. Or prism's not really the right word, but you know, you're seeing through those eyes, the Dharma eyes, the eyes of the truth of how things are. So they're not a distraction. I think, oh, I wonder if it's going to do that next, and oh, look, there's another one. It's not like that. You're seeing on a different level. So these 9 difficult things that I have sung here, even though they are difficult, you should engage in their practice. This is what to do. So this is what to do. So let's do it. So sit up in a good posture. I mean, we're only going to have a few minutes meditation, maybe 10 minutes. But, so, you know, don't expect to suddenly get enlightened. But we'll just have a taste with these words ringing in our ears. I'm not going to say any more. I'll just repeat that last 2 lines. Sit up straight, not leaning on anything. Just relax your mind, relax your body, maintain a good posture. These 9 difficult things that I have sung here, even though they are difficult, you should engage in their practice. So it was a rather short meditation, but we're running out of time. When you're practicing at home, of course, you should do a lot longer than that. But quality is the main thing, not quantity. But whatever you can do, even though it's difficult, you should engage in their practice. Otherwise, what's the point? Thus Milarepa sang, the young man uncontrollably gave rise to faith, and he was accepted as an attendant, as Milarepa's attendant. He was given the abhishekas, which is the empowerments, the authority to study and the empowerments, and the key instructions through which he was ripened and liberated. Thus he became the close son named Sapparappa. This is the cycle of meeting Sapparappa at Luminosity Cave. So out of that group, one of them made it to become, well, it said he became enlightened, of course not right at that moment, but through becoming the disciple of Milarepa and through following the key instructions, he was ripened. It's like a fruit, you get ripe and then you become liberated. Sapparappa. So Sappa, if you remember, is the area where Milarepa was from. That's the place. And Repa is the cotton-clad one. So the cotton-clad one from Sappu. So there we have it. It's yours to practice now. When we go through it together, I think it's good to do, obviously, but it's very important that you go through it yourself, and don't just stop there, because in a couple of hours, not even a couple of hours, it's you can't really go so deeply. So you need to practice. It's not just what I think about it or my interpretation, such as it is. Or even the words on the page. It's what you think, and you are the one that's practicing it, and you need to apply it. That's what practice means, not just reading it and the words, but getting to the meaning and applying it. Otherwise, it's like you know a song, but you don't sing it. So what's the point? So anyway, that's in your hands. It's entirely up to you. So let's finish our session by dedicating the merit for the benefit of all sentient beings. So at the bottom of the page, and we really think of it as any virtue that we've accumulated through our practice, that we share it, because then we are practicing generosity, aren't we? We're putting it into practice. It's not just words, empty words. So with sincerity. Oh, by this merit may I obtain omniscience, defeat the enemy wrongdoing, and so free all beings from the ocean of samsara, with its stormy waves of birth, aging, sickness, and death. So thank you for coming and participating, and good luck with it all. May it all go well, and we'll meet again in a month, I hope, and carry on. Thank you.